Okay, everybody, thank you so much, and thank you for connecting again. If you are connected, type connected. I've seen a few people that are already connected, and we will roll from here. Today we are in day 16. Day 16, so we are back to the back end. Here, the back end is getting more serious. We will be looking at data persistency. So let me just take us through some of the stuffs that we'll be discussing. Right. So let's look at some of the stuffs we'll be discussing. One, we'll take a look at Gradle for building our project. Gradle. And then 2, we'll be looking at the database. Then 3, we'll be looking at SQL. Let's see what we can cover. And 4, we'll be looking at a CRUDE operation. If we can't run through everything, then we'll complete that on day 17. Which means that day 18 will now be focused on using Spring Boot for our RESTful services. So we'll be looking at Gradle, database, SQL, and CRUDE. So without much ado, let's quickly take a look at Gradle. The last time I asked us to install Gradle on our system. So you need to check if Gradle is installed on your system currently. You need to check if Gradle is installed on your system currently. Let's try and verify that if Gradle is installed. And how do you do that? On your console, open the console and type Gradle. Just type Gradle. If it brings any information about Gradle, then Gradle is installed. If we bring any information about Gradle, then we know that Gradle is installed. Gradle is installed. If it doesn't bring any information, that means Gradle is not installed. So we can start by going to our terminal. Let's go to our terminal. You can click on New Terminal, and then your new terminal, when the terminal shows, just type Gradle. Just type Gradle and see whether it brings any information. If it doesn't, it means that Gradle is not installed, and you will have to go ahead and install Gradle. You have to go ahead and install Gradle. So let's take a look at that. If Gradle is installed on your system, type installed. If it is not installed on your system, type not installed. Installed or not installed. If Gradle is installed, you can see information about Gradle. Type installed. If it is not, type not installed. If it is installed, type installed. If it is not, type not installed. Okay, Gradle installed. I'm waiting for the rest people. Check if Gradle is installed. If it is not, type not installed. If Gradle installed, type installed. If not, type not installed. If you have Gradle installed, type installed. Otherwise, type not installed. Okay. Since I'm not getting any other person saying that whether it's installed or not, we move to the next phase, And the next phase is for us to build our project. Building our project. So we'll go back. We are going to create a project for our Gradle that will now use Gradle to begin to build. So go to your project, and in the root of your folder, let's have another one, call it database. Create a folder called database. Create the folder called database, mkdir database. Database. So type that command. Type that command, and once you have that command type, the next thing I want you to do is to go inside that database folder and let us create a project. So cd database. Let's enter into the database folder and create a cd database. cd database. Type cd database. Type cd database. So if you are in the database folder, so the next thing I want you to do is to run this program inside your database folder. Type mkdir. Type mkdir. We have a src. Src will be our first root. So src. If you're on Windows, type backslash. If you're on so if you're on Windows, type backslash. I think src backslash. If you're on Mac, use /. So src slash java, then slash. I think I will use this to actually explain what packages are. So we are in Bootcamp. Let's call it Bootcamp, and then slash db. Let's put it that way. We can make use of our regular student data, so let's call it edu. So mkdir file. Okay, let's start one by one. mkdir src. mkdir src. mkdir src. mkdir mkdir src. So let's go inside src. So we'll do cd src. So we're inside the src folder. So let's create another folder called Java. So call this mkdir Java. That is to create a Java folder or directory. So mkdir Java. If it is successful, change directly again to Java folder. Then we'll create our root package. Our root package. For those of you that are already lost, let's go back to the beginning. Open your terminal. What I said is that you open your terminal, that is from your VS Code. Click on the terminal. Click on terminal from your VS Code. On your VS Code, click terminal, the terminal tab, and then click on new terminal. From the terminal tab, click new terminal. Click new terminal. That will take you to the root of your project. That will take you to the root of your project. So, and then if you're on Windows, type dir. That should tell you on Windows, type dir. If you're on Mac, you can type ls. That will tell you where you are. So currently I'm in a Bootcamp folder directory, and in the directory you can see all our various files that we have been dealing with. You can see all the files that we have been dealing with. So if you have been able to go from terminal and you click new terminal, and then you see what I'm seeing on the screen after typing dir or ls, then type clear. Don't forget, you go to the terminal, click on your terminal tab on your VS Code, and then from the VS Code, click new terminal. At the new terminal, type dir. You should see the list of the files or folders that we already have. Now, so if you are there, the next thing I want you to do is to create a folder called database. We are using command line to create all these folders. So, and to create a folder, there's a command that is called mkdir. That is to create folder. mkdir, and then the folder name. In this context, the folder name is called database. So we are calling the folder name database. And then you press enter. So in my own, I already have database created. So when you press enter, it should jump to a new line, an empty line, if it is successful. Otherwise, it could give a warning. So for mine, shared database file exists because I've already created that folder while I was explaining earlier on. So if you're able to create the database folder, type database created. If you're able to create the database folder using the command line, type database created. Let's do this fast so that we can move on. Let's do this fast. Let's do it respond fast. Let's respond fast. Let's respond fast. If you have created a database folder, type database created. Type database created. Let's not waste time. Database created. So next is that now you need to change directory to the database. We want to create subfolders inside the database folder. The database will mark is our project folder. We are starting a new project, so the database will mark our project folder. So we'll change directly to the database, cd database. cd database, and you press enter. Cd database, press enter. That will take you inside the database folder. cd space database, and press enter. That will take you to database folder. That will take you to database folder. So let's do that. cd database. That should take you to the database folder. So cd database. Once you have done that, you should be inside database folder. Then the next, inside the database folder, we are going to create another folder called source, src, mkdir, src. The src is called source. It's just abbreviation for source codes. So we are saying that our source codes are going to be inside the src folder. Our project folder is called database. Then inside the database there could be other files, but the source files that we are going to be working with are in the database folder. So that's why we are creating another folder called src inside database. So press enter. mkdir src. I have already created src inside database. That is why mine is complaining. So you need to do that now. You need to do that. So if you have done that, type src created. If you have done that, type src created. If you have done that, type src created. So we can move on. Type src created. If you want to know where you are, the file path currently, you can just type if you're on Windows. If you are on Windows, type pwd. Pwd means print working directory. Print working directory. So let's do that to show where you are. Sorry, if you're on Windows, pwd is for Mac or Linux. If you're on Windows, type dir on Windows, dir. So we should have the same thing. Type dir if you're on Windows. If you're on Windows, type dir. If you're on Linux or Mac, type pwd. So that should show you the full path, where you are. All right. If you type dir, it show you the directory path where you are currently. So if you have done that, let's move on. Since we are inside the dir, we are inside database. We should be inside src now. So we should be inside src. So if you are inside src, we need to make another folder called, this is the structure we are creating. We are creating src, or we are creating database to src, from src to Java, from Java to Bootcamp, which is our project name, and then we have another one called edu. So this is the structure that we want to maintain. We want to maintain database src Java Bootcamp, database src Java Bootcamp edu. So we want to create the folders in this order. We want to create the folders in this order. We want to create the folders in this order. So I will just say here, database folder, database, SRC, Java, Bootcamp, Bootcamp, then edu. So that is the package structure that we have. Now, so since we have created the SRC, inside SRC, let's create the other files, the other folders. So mkdir Java, mkdir Java. Once you have done that, instead of Java already exists because I've done that. So do the same thing. Once you have done that, change directly again to the Java, cd Java. Inside Java folder, make another directory, mkdir, call it Bootcamp. Call it Bootcamp, and then press enter. So we have a Bootcamp created. After that, change directory again to Bootcamp, cd Bootcamp, so that we can create the final folder inside the Bootcamp folder. cd Bootcamp, then mkdir edu. So if you do that and you print working directory or dir, you should be able to see what we have done. You should see database, SRC, Java, Bootcamp. Okay, inside Bootcamp, we cd edu, and you print working directory. You can see the directory structure. If you're on Windows, yours should be \. If you're on the Linux, it will be /. So that said, I will use this to explain packages in Java. In Java, data maintains what we call encapsulation. I was explaining encapsulation earlier on for object-oriented programming concepts, and I said that encapsulation is a way of hiding data or variables that you don't want to expose to the public, hiding non-public implementations, or non-public data. So that is what encapsulation means. So in this context, when you write program, you have a lot of codes. All of them can get mixed up. You want to arrange codes in the order of grouping. You want to group related codes. That's what a package does. In packaging, you group related codes. You understand? Related codes are grouped. You can have a group that they are just objects. You can have a group of classes that deals with database management. You can deal with a group of classes that deal with files. You can deal with a group of classes that they don't actually do major work, but to just micro utility work. So we can just create a folder called utils and put those classes there. So that's a way of grouping, and it's called packaging in Java. So in Java, it's called packaging. So when you now put your files in different folders, you need to reference the current folder you are in your application. Do you get it? So for example, now let's say we want to create a file. Let's say we want to have something that deals with like student record that we have. So we can have students, right? We can have courses, right? We can have department as an object. We can also have what? We can also have maybe like faculty as an object. So let's just say a student, an address. Let's do the two. Let's do student and address, and create an object like that. So if you go back now from your Gradle, let's create a file now. Let's create a file in the folders that we have that we are working on. Let's look at that. Let's create a new file. New file. You see, just create a new file, and this file we want to say Java files. I will call it, let's call the first one student. We just call it student, and we save it in we are going to save it in student in our database folder. Just open your folder. Let's see. Let's see. So here, from the sidebar, I have okay, we can see our database folder, right? So inside the database folder, we have SRC, we have Java, and inside the Java and all that, we want to create students. So we'll create a new file called students. I'll just right click new file, or just select this edu. I'm selecting the edu and create a new file, and I call it student.java. Now you will see, if you have created your own student, it will have a package, and the package is called what? But we want our root package to be this. When we do configuration, we are going to deal with that. Okay, if you have installed Gradle on your project, if you have installed Gradle on your system, let's do one more thing. Let's go back to the database folder, the root folder. Let's go back to the root folder of database. Let's go back to the root folder of the database. Let's go back to the root folder of the database. How do you do that? Just say cd dot, right? Cd dot, second time, cd dot, third time. Print working directory. We are seeing in SRC, but we are going to database, so you can say cd dot again, press enter. That will take you to the database folder. So let's do that. Once you have done it, type done. Once you have done it, type done. So I'm waiting for us. Waiting. Let's try to do that. Once you have done it, type done. Once you have done it, type done. Once you have done it, type done. So we move on. So we are in the root of the database, right? So if you're in the root of your database folder, let's type Gradle in it. Now, what is Gradle? Gradle is what we call a code building tools. What it does is that before we always write Javac, and then when we want to compile two classes, we have to add the first class, the second class. If we have a class that is dependent on 3 more classes, we have to put all the 3 classes, including the class we want to compile, that is the 4th class, on a single class and type Javac. Imagine as our classes are growing in number, we will end up typing like 10, 20 classes on command line to compile at the same time. That can become very tedious, laborious, and time consuming. So because of that, we have tools that can automate the building of projects, automate the building of project, our source code, compile it, all the files, and they're put in another directory. So one of such tools is called a Gradle. So and for when you are starting a new Gradle project, you have a project folder. Inside the project folder, then you type a Gradle init, which is what we want to do now. So type Gradle init, type it, type Gradle init, type Gradle init as command line. You can see what I'm typing here. Type Gradle space init. Type Gradle space init. Type Gradle space init. And press enter. Type Gradle space init and press enter. Type Gradle init and press enter. If you do that, and Gradle is installed, it will ask you when it's starting, it could ask you for some information. So you need to provide those information. You need to provide those information. So let's see. Let's see. I think on this very system there is no Gradle. So I'm trying to install while you are doing yours. So it should ask you to select a type of project to generate. Now, if it asks you to select a type of project to generate, let's start with basic. Select one. Type 1. 1 for basic. 1 for basic. One for basic. Okay. Then after that, it will ask you what kind of build script do you want. There is Kotlin, there is Groovy. So the one that allows us to write script that looks like Java is Groovy. So let's select 1 again. 1 for Groovy. Select 1 for Groovy and press enter. So it might ask you for another question like building using new APIs and behavior may change. The default is no. Just press enter. Don't do anything. Just press enter. When you press enter, the next question that is going to ask you is the project name. Since you are already in a root folder, of a project, and the project we call it database. So it will select the root folder as a default project folder. So it means that you don't have to do anything, just press enter. Press enter. Once you have done that, it will tell you that it is created or it is build is successful. If you see build successful after running those steps, type successful. Type successful. Type successful. Type successful. Type successful. Okay. So to run us through again, we're in the database folder, right? We're in the database folder. You type Gradle in it, right? And then Gradle in it and asks you for what kind of application you want to generate or project you want to do, basic project or application or library or Gradle plugin. You select one for basic. Let's take one for basic. And after that, it should ask us to select build script. After you have done that, select one for whatever thing that is shown, whatever option that is given to you. Here it is Groovy. We want to use Groovy, so select Groovy. And after Groovy, you ask you for database name. For the database, for the project name. So you just press enter. And then it asks you for default behavior, yes or no. Just press enter not to take action. Then you should arrive at build successful. Build successful. Build successful. Build successful. Now, if we had not created the SRC folder, you can see if you look at it, let's see whether we'll be able to see what I'm seeing. Okay, so if you haven't created those folders, you will see that those folders will be created, for you up to. Okay, let's take a deep dive into the folder. If you look at the left bar, left bar, you will see that there is a .gradle folder created. That .gradle folder, it is used to maintain Gradle changes or updates that it needs to happen. Now the next one, you will see Gradle folder. The Gradle folder contains also the Gradle dependency file libraries that you need to use to compile your project. And then we have SRC folder, which is the folder we have created. We have SRC, Java, Bootcamp. Now, if we have not created Bootcamp and all that folder, Gradle would have created SRC Java for us. So the next is JIT attribute. Here, the JIT attribute here, if you click on the file, what it does is that all the files that we want to maintain for JIT will be there. Also, JIT ignore is for all files. When we are building, we don't want unnecessary files to go into our source code repository onto the Git. Now, so these generated folders are to be ignored. That is, they're not to be sent because they could contain so many files that we don't need. Files that can be regenerated automatically do not need to be pushed to the Git. So then we have build.gradle. Inside the build.gradle, you see that it is very, very, very empty. The build.gradle is very empty because there is nothing here. There is nothing here. So, and we need to tell Gradle how to build our projects. How to build our project. There are so many things that we can put there. We can state that when it builds, it's just should build something. Let's try and see what happens if we just run. If we just run build without anything. So to make use of Gradle to build your class files or source codes for you, you type Gradle build. Gradle, then build is the command that you want to do. If you want to run some tests, we can also say test. So the task here that we want to perform is called build. The build is synonymous to the compile that we are doing. This time around, what build does is that it looks for all the Java files and then compile all of them, and then the generated class files, you put it in another folder called the build folder. So currently there is no build folder here. So let's run build. Let's run build. So currently it said that build successful, no dependency and things like that. What this simply means is that there is no file to be compiled. That's why it says that build is successful, class path no dependencies. Class path no dependencies, though it is successful. We are expecting that our student file should be compiled. It should be compiled, but it does not compile. So we need to make use of, we need to ensure that these are compiled. The setting file is the root project. The settings file is the root, is the file that tells Gradle that this is the root of the project. So currently we don't need any dependencies, but we can start by going into our build. There is a file called build. This build is what tells Gradle what task to perform. So let's add something like dependencies. Now the dependencies here is to ensure that whatever files that needs to be compiled, or whatever thing that need to be used, or library that is needed, is what is called dependencies. Then also for every project we write, we'll try to look at what is our base project. Now in these project files, we have after Java we have Bootcamp, isn't it? We have Bootcamp, and inside Bootcamp I created another folder called edu. So which means that this bootcamp.edu is like our tag for the project. You understand? And in Gradle, that is referred to as group. So before the dependencies, we can add group. Say here we have a group, and the group equals to, let's call it bootcamp.edu. In another way, if we had selected application, it can also automatically generate this for us. So we have group edu. Then our program, we can give it a version. Let's start with from version 0.01, version 0.01 or just 1.0. Now in versioning, In versioning, we have like we have release and we have updates. Do you get it now? So the release is, let's say, is version 0 now. And then we have the first major feature, so we can say maybe it's 1. Then if there is any update, we have not started adding updates, so we can call it 0.1.0 or 0.0.1, depending on how you want to do it. For simplicity's sake, we can just say version 1 or version 2, version 3. But ideally, for every other project that you'll be seeing, it always use these 3 parts to define a version. Then this is a Java program that we are building. So let's say we will apply plugin, and this plugin we call it Java. Now these plugins are like they're also like utility tools that define the kind of project you are building and the kind of binary file that need to be included when you are doing the project. I think with that we can try and build again. Let's try and build again. Say if you want to build, don't forget you just run what? Gradle build. So you run Gradle build, and it said it's built successfully. And if it is built successfully, there will be a build folder. If you check the left hand side, you will see a build folder created. And then inside the build folder you see things like files, you have a manifest and all that is created. So that is building. And if there is any error, in terms of, let's try and introduce error to be sure that it's actually finding our file. Let's see. Where are we? Sorry. I'm going to move this back to SRC. Sorry. I'm going to move this back to EDU. Sorry, going back to while we are at it. Which one? Okay, file. I'm not into extension. I'll leave that. Okay. Sorry, one more. Can you attempt, so from your own system, make sure you create a file inside the the build project, the database. Inside the database, we have Bootcamp, SRC Java Bootcamp. And there, make sure you create a file called students. Create a class. You can just create an empty class, then run build, run Gradle build. If you are able to build successfully, type build successful. Type build successful. Type build successful. Type build successful. So I'm able to build, and I think I have changed some stuff. Okay, I think something is okay. So let me see if you're able to build. Okay. We have a student, and you put package.src, and then in your student class is basically, we have here, we just have basically students with nothing there, and so we write Gradle build. If it is successful, it will show successful. Now if you go back to the build folder, if you are not seeing the screen, you can refresh. So if you go back to the build folder, you will see that we have lib created. We have lib created. Now let's create a main class. Let's have a class that has a main class. Let's have a class that have a main class. Let's have a class that have a main class. And your packages, all packages must be in lowercase. All package names must be in lower cases. All package names must be in lower cases. And then on the package, see what I put there. You can see package database.src.java bootcamp.edu. All package name must be in lowercase. Look at how I define my own student class. Look at how I define my own student class. Look at how I define my own student class. We have had the dependencies. We have a plugin. And then maybe we can add the plugins Java at the root. Okay, check the build.gradle again. The build.gradle file. Check that what you have in your build.gradle file matches what is in my own file. In the build.gradle file, you will see I have group which is called Bootcamp, edu. There is version, and then apply plugin. But on the top, I want to add something like plugins. Add something like plugins. So just check. Plugins, then ID, say Java. If we are going to add application, we can have ID application. When we get to Spring Boot and all that, we'll see how to also add Spring Boot based the application. So for now, we just have what? We just have plugins. We have plugins, ID Java, ID application. So make sure that is there, and then go back to your student class. Student should be inside your database folder. There is SRC, there is Java, there is Bootcamp and EDU. So it should be inside the EDU, the students. So once we have that, then we can try and comply by writing Gradle build. Are we done? So let's try and do that. If build is successful, let me know when build is successful. When build is successful, let me know. So once you have done and this build is successful, just type successful, build successful. If you are experiencing problem, type your problem there. If it's not successful, just put not successful. Okay, let me show you the Gradle file again. Build.gradle file. Look at the content. The content starts with after the comments. The first thing we have is we have plugins. Plugins, ID Java, ID application. Then we have group equals to bootcamp.edu. Then we have version. So take a look at that. Take a look at that. Then group. Yes. Type your question in the chat. Type your question in the chat box. Okay, build not successful. Let's see why it is not successful. So let's see. So you have the build dots. Ensure that what is in the build.gradle matches what is being displayed. You can refresh your browser if you are not seeing it, in case it's displaying late. So try and build again. Ensure that your folder structure reflects or looks like the folder structure I have here. There is Java and there is Bootcamp, SRC Bootcamp. Let's follow that. Let's do that. And try and compile again. Let's do that. 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 Compile again. compile again. Yes, just whatever if you see in my student for now, whatever you see in my student is what we should run it for now. So let's do that and compile again. Take a look at my student. All right. Let's try and introduce error and see whether the class is actually working as expected or the build is working as expected. So I say integer get record. It's supposed to be a wrong thing anyway. So I've saved that. Let's try and compile this. Let's try and compile again. Say Gradle build. Gradle build. It's not catching it, which means that my source files, our source files are not caught. Source files are not being seen. So we need to fix that. It's not seeing our source file. It's not seeing our source file, and we need to fix that. We need to fix that. So let's take a look at that. In the settings, we have our repository, right? Let me see. Let me see. Let me see what we should do now. So now that we have our source file in this, it means that Gradle is not seeing our source file the way it's supposed to be seen. So we have plugins. We have plugins. Let me quickly review that. We have plugins built, and then we have in our build.xml Gradle.build, right? Gradle.build file. In a Gradle.build file, let's try to add okay, so we have this script, we have apply plugin, right? Okay, and we also have let's try with source compatibility. Let's try to add source compatibility. Say source compatibility. Which is equals to 1. Let's start with 1.8 version, and then target compatibility, the same thing. Okay, let me also see one more thing to be added. So in our Gradle build files and the settings.Gradle. Okay. Let me try and see to fix that. Okay, so okay, see. Settings.Gradle. Let's see, is there anything that we are missing? Okay, so let's add, let me add something. Apply plugin Java. Let's add our source sets. That is where to look for to compile. So in our source set, main. Okay, yeah, I see why it's not. There's something I think we missed here. SRC, right? SRC, after SRC, we're supposed to have, we can have main. That is for folders to be compiled, and inside the SRC we can have what we call tests. This is where the test files will also be. So let's move the Java folder into the main. Let's move the Java folder into the main. So inside the SRC we should have main, then Java Bootcamp edu, and then you will have students in it, right? So then we can now define in our Gradle file, our source set should be of this form. We are saying that it should be in main, and then after main we have Java, right? And then SRC directory. SRC directories, let's say it's called SRC. Let me see. Okay, so could not find source compatibility, and then it's let's quickly fix this. Okay, so I think it's correct now. Let me also try and do this. Let's try it this way. Let's try this way. Bootcamp source sets. Okay, let's review what we have here. We have our source set, which is main, and main Java. So and src dirs, we say is source. The source is src. And then we have after that we have our dependencies. Okay, I think that should be it. Refresh your browser if you are not seeing what I'm doing. You can refresh your browser if you are not seeing what I'm doing. Okay, so try and compile. You should be able to create error now. We want to see that it shows error when you try and build. Let's do that again. Let's do that. I want to also try 17. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to also say, I'll try and fix this and say return 1. We are going to compile again. Say Gradle build. Okay, this time around it built. Okay, so let's run through what we have. Your okay, your build file. No. Just check now. This is what should be in the build file. This is what you have in the build file. I'm going to clean it up so it will be as simple as possible. Your build file should have this. Your build file should contain this. Looks like the chart gets displayed faster. So your build file should contain what I have posted in the charts. Your build file should contain plugins, and then group version. So whatever thing I posted there, just paste it under the comment of your build.gradle file. Okay, I guess there's a bit of delay in rendering, but just copy what I've posted. If you refresh your screen, you should see it. If you refresh your screen, you will see what is in my build. In my build file. After that, you can go to settings. You can go to student, and your student just leave a bootcamp.edu there as a package. So the package should be bootcamp.edu. The package, we may have to just share that for now so that we can get it faster. Package bootcamp.edu. Bootcamp.edu. And then we have students. So once you have done that, make those changes and build again. Make those changes and build. Let's do that so that we can move. Let's do that so that we can move. We need to get this right so that we can move forward without wasting time. Okay. Okay, so let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. So refresh your screen if you are not seeing mine. All right. Type the error you are getting. Type the error you are getting, or just paste your error on the chat box. So we fix that. Type the error you are getting so we fix so we can fix that. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so make sure that your build file, Gradle.build, is inside the database folder. And then I told you your SRC, you need to rename it now. You need to rename it. Inside the SRC, you create a folder called main. Create a main folder. Create a main folder inside SRC. Inside SRC, create a main folder. That is, let's say, where are we now? So let's say you are in the database folder now. Then cd src. In the cd src, now create a folder called main, mkdir main. So that's the directory structure that Gradle follows. It follows src, then followed by a main. There are two folders that could be in src folder. There could be a main folder. There could be a test folder. So let's have a main folder. Now, after you have created the main folder, all the folder you have created before, Java Bootcamp edu, you can move it to the main folder. Move it to the main folder. So eventually your folder structure should look like this. Say cd main, cd java, cd bootcamp, cd bootcamp, cd edu. So your folder structure should look like this. You should have a database src main, then java bootcamp edu. This is how your folder structure should look like. Otherwise, Gradle will not be able to find it. Okay, let me see. Have you corrected that? If you have corrected that, you can just type corrected. So this is the folder structure. And if you have built yours successfully, if you go back to the build folder, then you will see that a classes folder is generated automatically. That will contain your compiled class files. That will contain your compiled class files. So if I delete this folder now and I try to recompile, let's see. I'm in the database, so I say Gradle build. So you realize that in the build folder, there is a classes folder that is generated, which means that your clients have been compiled. First, make sure that you are inside SRC folder. Go back to the main folder. Go back to the root directory, which is the database folder. From there, change directly to SRC because SRC is already created. Now inside SRC, now do mkdir main. Do mkdir main. So if you look at it, this is what we have now in our database project. Now we have SRC, and then we have main, and the edu, or call students, right? So let's create another file. This get record is not corrected. I just put it there as a dummy one. So let's just have let's create a getter and setter. Say private string name, right? Then private address. We'll create address class and call it address. And then public student say string name address, and then we can have this dot name equals to name, this dot address equals to address. Now address has not been created, so let's create address object. We create address object, create a new file called address.java. So it's a class, and then the address we want it to have what? Say string street. What else do we have in address? We have street, private string, you have town, right? Or city, let's call it city. You have city, then private string. After city we have what? Country, isn't it? Country. We'll leave it at that. Say string city, street, then city, maybe state instead of country. We can have just a state. Let's leave it that way. And then we can create getter and setter. Say public address, then string street, string city, then string state, right? So we say this dot street equals to street, and then this dot city equals to city, and then this dot state equals to state. Now, so we have this. That's for address, and this has to be in this package. It has to be in package bootcamp.edu. Bootcamp.edu. Now, since we have this, we can create getter and setter. Say public string get city. return this dot city. Yeah, this is getter. We can create getter and setter like that. Now for student depends on address, so you can see that address is already done. So from here I can have a public address, get address. Then return this dot address. Just simple objects that we have been creating before. That's simple objects that we have been creating before. Simple objects that we have been creating before. So we deal with that. And then we can go and compile again. So Gradle build. Let's see whether it will build. It should build. And if you look at the build folder, you see classes, and you see that address is also compiled there. Address is also compiled there. I think that is for Gradle. To build. Now let's say we want to add a main method to this. And for this main method I want to create another file. Let's call it student in our source file, right? In our source file I want to create a file called student manager. Let me not call it student manager. Let me call it let me call it admissions. Let me call it admissions.java. And what do admissions do? Admissions is the one that manages students and things like that. So I say, let's say we have admissions, and admission has a main class, public static void main. And main, so if we have a main class, what do? Then we have public static for main string, array string, then args. So here admission, we instantiate admissions equals to new admissions. Then so here let's say in admission class, public public admissions, and inside these admissions, let's just say, since it's our entry class, let's print out a message, system.out.println welcome to admissions unit. Welcome to additions unit. And then here we have public void admit. We want to admit. Let's have a method called admit. We want to admit a student. Admit a student. All I want to do here is that we want to have a collection of students. So we have a student records and things like that. But for now, just for us to test our main method, let's just print something like student name, student.out.println. student dot get name, admitted. So student dot get name, and then for our students, let's have a get name. So we have address, let's say public string get name. So our student, we have name, address, get name, get address. And in admissions, which is our main class, it has a method. So here, let's admit a student. So let's say student s equals to new student, and new student has name and address, isn't it? So address is an object. Say student name is tester, and then the address, say address. So but we need the address object to be created. Let's create an address object. Say address equals to new address. And for address, we have what? Street, isn't it? See, it's 1 Tony Street. And the city, what's the name of the city? Let's give it a city. Common. This Tony Street. Common city. The city is Göteborg. And then the state is Västra Gotland. Okay, so now we have a student, we have created an address, and then we initialize a student with that address, and then admission, we have instantiated admission. We can just say admissions dot admit this student. As simple as this. So students dot admit students, student dot admit students. Now what do we do? And then we build our project again. Let's try and build Gradle build. Think there's an error here, and the error is that set cannot find. Okay, let's take a look at it here, because in our admission the package name is not the same, so it has to be the same for what we are referencing. So we have Bootcamp. Let's try and recompile, rebuild. You see that it is built. Once you see successful, it means that it is built successfully. Once it's built, is built successfully. But then, so how do we test this? Since it has been built, if you go and you take a look at the build file, build directory, you will see build, and then you will see libs created, and you see the project name, which is called database. And don't forget, in our build let me move down so that you can see the rest of the code. And in our build, if you look at the left hand side, if the build, you have libs. Inside the libs, you have a database. It means that all our files are being packaged together and zipped together into a file called jar, a jar file. That is, a jar file means Java archive, jar file. Just like you have for zip files and things like that. So this is how Java zip file. So all the 3 files classes that we have generated are packaged into that file. So we just run. So since we have a main method, before we could have just say, the way we run, we will say Java and then we go to the classes, in Java, and then put the classes that we want. Where is the class? The class is in the build. The generated files is in the build slash what? Slash classes, and then slash admissions. This is where it is, but it's still saying that this file is not found. I think it's going to be the classes. Then we have Java. I think we will now have Java. If you go down, Java, you now have let's see, you have Java, you have main, you have after main, what else? We have Bootcamp, we have I hope we are seeing this. Let me move up a little. So Bootcamp, after Bootcamp, we have what? We have EDU, isn't it? Before the admissions, and you now run. Now, so here, but in my own file, I have the version of Java that I'm running is, I think, is lower Java version. Okay, this is Java 11, and on my system, let's see, Java version 11, so Java version 11.2.12. So it's saying that if you look at this now, you realize that you just keep adding those files in loading this file. However, there is a better way to handle this. There's a better way to handle this. If you look at this, if you look at the build folder, you will see there is a folder called libs. There's a folder called libs, so you can easily call that folder by just say Java build slash libs slash what is it, database dash 0.1.0.jar. You can run this. Okay, what do we have? Class not found exception. Yes, the reason we are getting this is because now the Gradle has bundled our projects together, right? It has bundled our projects together. However, we have not stated which of the three files is our entry file, the main class. Which of the three files is our main class? So we are just going to update our build.gradle file and state which class is our entry class. How do we do that? We just put main class name. So let's go there. Build.gradle. In the build.gradle, we can put, after the dependencies, we can say that main class name equals to the package name equals to bootcamp.edu.admissions. So we just put this in our Gradle. Any class that contains the main class for our entire project is what we are going to put here with the package name. And then we can build again. Let's say run Gradle. If you want to delete everything that you have created that Gradle has generated before, just run Gradle clean. The clean will delete all the compiled files and things like that. And so if you look at it, you see that there is no build file or build folder. There is no build folder. So we can go back and try again and say Gradle build. So we have a fresh build now. And with a fresh build, you will see that it has generated the build folder, the list folder, and all that. So if you try to run what we ran before and do this, database, let me be sure that I have database dot leaves. Let me put jar enabled here. Class name admissions jar dot enabled equals to true. Main class name. So we have main class name. Does it tally with what we have here? Admissions, WSION admissions. Okay, so I Gradle clean to delete previous ones, and then Gradle build to rebuild. Gradle build to rebuild. Gradle build to rebuild. I think can refresh to see what I've done so far. Then we can pause from here. We can pause from here and continue tomorrow. We have already overshot time. Let's continue that tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much for being available to